If you will bring your elbows inside your knees, bring your hands together. And feel how you have arrived. Bring your focus to your breath. How does the chest expand because of this closed container? If there is energy applied, hands pushing into each other, feet pushing into the floor, elbows pushing into those inner legs, I want you to give away half of the intensity. And bring your focus back to your breath. If we back off and hold on with just what is essential, we give space to what can be as we offer ourselves, our love to the world. The beauty of that is a two-way relationship. It is the receptivity that comes. Let us continue. So while we are here and we're able to use our bolster, we are going to start with a little bit of pigeon. And the reason, hence, for the setup a little bit higher, because no matter where we are in pigeon, we will ease in from a higher position. So I'm going to let one leg turn out. I'm going to bring my blocks to the front. They're going to help me stay in charge and navigate. I'm going to take the other leg behind. And I just want to show the folks on the screen. So I could go this way. One leg stayed in front. And if what is right for me is to have the other leg turned out with the bent knee, that's the better place, then that's my starting place. I have to respect that. But what you'll do in the long run is notice the willingness of your body to continue this hip opening. And some of you will find that you are able to really reach the leg back. It is not necessarily a mistake, it's just a way to practice if in fact there is this turning pigeon pose into a resting place. So today we're not going to go there exactly. We're going to follow the progress to more of an endpoint to say that pigeon asks us to have a heart opening. It asks us to take on a back bend, to open the hips as well, to strengthen the back with this back bend, because eventually we'll catch that foot behind us. So we have to work in that direction. And it starts with, what is this hip doing? What do I need to do with my leg to make it kind on my body? And to use the blocks to make it right for your support. So press into the blocks and prop yourself up. And then pay attention to the front leg. The front leg, if you need to be kinder on this front hip, then bring your knee more toward the center and pull the foot closer to the pubic bone. But if what you can do is work more towards that shin being perpendicular to the body, then it brings us to the challenge for this side, for this hip. No matter where you are with this, if you will, pull the legs toward each other. Where they are in contact with the floor, pull them toward each other. And that strengthens what needs to happen in the foundation so that our progressive steps in this pose will be safe. Notice how you're propping up your spine. Let's go to one more change. I want us to place the blocks so they are perhaps at their medium height in front, and come down and rest the forearms. And as you do, then you've taken the load off the back leg hip, and maybe you're able to reach into that leg a little bit more. The arms press forward and the legs pull toward each other. They pull toward each other. So even from here, we have that setting up the foundation for its strength pattern. Turn the palms up, stretch your fingers wide, and then turn the palms down. So you're just shifting through the forearm. Try that again. Turn the palms up, stretch your fingers wide, keep the neck long, turn the palms down, keep stretching your fingers. Very good. When you're ready for change, come prop yourself up. This is one transition in pigeon. It's to bring the back leg forward and to take the front leg back. Take your time. We used this as a practice right from the beginning, right out the gate. And so this is a pose that releases a lot of tension, and we can't help but notice. All right, so use your blocks, let that help you. Some of you will find that maybe you want them taller, right? You're longer in your body. But what makes it right for this side? What makes it right for this side? And then lengthening, opening. Exactly. The arms press forward, the legs pull toward each other. We minimize injuries when these are the muscles that don't have such tension. So here we are. Stretch your fingers wide, spend some time with the palms up, reach into the back leg, spend some time with the palms down. It begins to affect what the shoulders are doing here. So when we fold, we're not collapsing, we're continuing, but the legs pull toward each other. What I want you to start to notice for yourself in this pigeon pose, you may already know it, which is the tighter side, and we really want to call it our less willing side, so that when it becomes your own practice, you spend more time, or you come a third repetition and you stay a little longer on that less willing side. All right. So now, if you will, bring that back leg forward and sit comfortably. Sit in a legs crossed position if that is comfortable for you, because I just want you to notice with the height and with the release of pigeon, how you feel like sitting this way is really easy, easy. Switch, which is the leg in front? Which is the leg in front? And then turn. So I want to turn, put the outer edge of the hand to the outer knee. The block behind you can be used for the backhand in case you're not making it to the floor like me, and use the legs lightly. Turn any amount, any amount. Nice. Inhale, come on out. Exhale, turn in the other direction. We want to lengthen the underside of the arm and find all the leverage patterns. You could catch the back end of the bolster and pull with it. You can put your hand at the block or the floor, but both arms have their job. The legs are on. And then release. As you inhale and come out of it, we're ready to go back to work of symmetry. And I'm going to give us a chance to use the bolster underneath the length of the body. So I'm going to move my blocks to the side and adjust so that I can come down where, so we won't go through a fancy adjustment. And I'll go this way for just a little bit, but I want to come down so that I have my rib cage and my thighs supported on the bolster. Okay. And I'll wait for everybody to get there. Lower ribs are on the bolster. And we'll liken this to what we know in places like low plank and upward facing dog and cobra pose, and what the legs can be doing. And then we'll get a great shoulder release out of it. All right, so lower ribs are supported. This is a feel-good place. It feels good to be here. I want you to try propping your toes up so that the toes press down and back and the forearms press down and forward. So while you're here, the toes press down and back, the kneecaps lift up towards your upper body. You've charged the legs. And this is a really neat place to be. Sometimes we're in a low plank and this is what the legs are doing. So for anybody who says, oh, but my ankles find this too much or my toes are working too hard, this is a great place to build up to it. I want us to give our weight to this bolster and to slide the hands so that they're under the shoulders. And there's not a lot of weight in my hands. Keep the neck neutral and then lift the hands off the floor, and rather interesting the work for the back of the shoulders. Put your hands at the floor, push a little bit, lift your head, and notice that what I'm really asking you to do is not to go all the way, but to make your arms pull back so that you feel like you're pulling your sternum, heart forward, elbows close to you. So when we come down from a tall plank to the floor, this position called chaturanga, it's hard on the shoulders. Come on down, we're not going far. And this is a great way to practice, even if what you did was put your fingertips down because you're trying to protect wrist, just any of that gives you a chance to come up a little bit, and then come on down. We want to change the angle for the sake of making it less like upward facing dog, more like cobra. And that means we can go as far as putting the fingers closer to the waistline, pressing down and back, and coming up. And notice I'm not going very far. Some of you know this and you want to go further, and you sure can, but then you have less in your wrists and more in your shoulders, okay? And then come on down. Here comes the release. Now, it might be that you use your block underneath your forehead. And it might be that you have another blanket that you want to roll up instead, but we're going to cross the arms, one arm over the other. And as I walk my arms across, I can rest my forehead. Depending on the mobility in your neck, what your head really wants, you can keep your head lifted. You can let your forehead rest a little bit, but this needs to be right for you. And as soon as we learn that place, we can relax with it a little bit more. So stay here and just breathe. There is space between the shoulder blades. This replaces the work of eagle pose. And then very slowly come back, prop up, switch, which is the arm in front now that you know where you're going, and we're going to go right back down. We're going to walk the arms across and let the head rest. And if your setup needs to be higher, please make your adjustment. Right, make it right for you. The arms are crossing. Yep. Take the time and slide up. I hope everybody enjoyed that. It seems a little tedious when it's new, but it's amazing. We want to continue with a really quiet place. And notice how I'm turning my bolster so that it runs perpendicular to my mat, and I'm going to come and rest beside it because I'm going over. And here's what I'd like for us to consider, okay? So I have a block that creates this little brook, and my shoulder is going to rest in this brook. If you have a smaller bolster like I do, then you might decide that you want this second blanket. It will lend itself to folks who either have a longer body or more mobility to have a thicker bolster. And so if you feel like you need less, for those reasons, I would be fine with this because I'm a short person. I could just rest here and let the arm rest in this brook and use the block to support my neck and rest, letting my hand just at my waistline, let the elbow drop back. Because where I want you to explore is to turn your head toward the ceiling and allow yourself a little bit of rotation. We're not going to stay there long because then you'll come back to more of a side lying position. We want gravity to help that top shoulder. And what can happen for the back elbow is if it's just hanging out and it's too much, you could put the block behind you, but you should be able to tolerate the effect of gravity here. I want you to settle in, use the block. Some of you have a second blanket you can prop up under your head to make it the right height, but this should be a really lovely support of your rib cage so that the other side of the rib cage just releases. Right? Once you settle in, we're going to talk about what the legs can do. There's nothing wrong with staying here. Your knees are bent. The top leg can go to sliding back. Yep. And it can go so far back that it can rest in the instep of the bottom leg foot. And for some people, that will be too much of a hip opening. So somewhere in between might be just right. You might let your knee rest on your ankle or on your foot, but regardless, you've opened up the hip. We're just taking advantage of what pigeon allowed us. If you turn your head to look up toward the ceiling, your rib cage will follow. And if it's too much on that hip, then just stack your shoulders and stay centered and just breathe. So if you could have both blocks handy, one of them is going to go for the pelvis, and decide the height of your block. I'm going to turn mine low. And I want to rotate so that the bolster is underneath my shoulder blades. Wow. And my arms get to run between this brook. Okay. And most everybody is taller than me. So the second block can go underneath the pelvis while you have the support of the bolster across the chest. The block that doesn't let your head hang down, you can begin to adjust if that's what you prefer. And this bridge position that has a really interesting support. Okay. This is where we're going, just so that you know. All right. Some of you have a smaller bolster. And if you are a back bender, if you have a neck that has great mobility and you really want it, then you can experiment with taking the block away and letting your head have that incline. I know that's not for everyone. Okay? So if you start to get there and it's not for you, it's not for today. Sometimes we need an in-between place. And I know some folks have a second blanket. They can put the blanket instead of the block, and then they'll have a little bit of an incline. That's where we're going in the long run. We're not going to stay long here. We want to get a taste of this pose called Setu Bandha, because we're going to come back and do it with a variation. Can we take one leg long? Just open up the hip. Notice how one side of your body has a little bit of a back bend. And then slide that leg in. Take the other leg out. The very initial part of any restorative pose is just understanding ourselves so we know where to build the support that's going to make this right for us. So there are no glitchy places, we can just settle in. When you're ready, we were using this just to learn. We're going to come back here. But for now, I want you to roll to the other side. And for some of you, what that really means is I need to move this block away and sit up to get there. And for some of you, you'll move the block away and just continue on to roll to the other side. The block under your head is already set up. And you'll stack your knees, rest your hand at your hip, let your elbow drop back. And respect that each side is different. The block is under your head, or there is something under your head. The bolster and the block have a distance that allows your shoulder to fit. The bolster supports the rib cage. Some of you will use a bolster and a blanket. And as you have that top hand resting at your waistline so the elbow drops back, experiment with turning your head toward the ceiling. Notice if you like it. And then take the top knee and slide it back, away. The foot comes towards the buttocks. The top leg, the knee rests maybe at the bottom foot ankle, or it can go as far as the instep. We are taking advantage of what Pigeon provided. If your rib cage is willing to a greater rotation, make sure you bring the block with you so you don't roll off of it. Respect that the side is different. Just breathe. And take the time and roll back to center. To your starting place. Stacked hips, stacked shoulders, and press up and sit. We're going to adjust the bolster. We want something similar now, but the bolster is going to run lengthwise instead. So if you'll notice, my block here is going to be under my head. Where your head is supported is unique to each person, but I just want to show and I want to really reiterate that your shoulder blades go on the edge. They don't go on the floor. They go on the edge as if they're on an incline. So as I come down here, please watch, my shoulder blades get pinned to my rib cage. And if I didn't want to drop my head with the incline, then I could park the block and wow, my arms have this great effect of gravity. Anybody who feels like it's too much, we can bring the ground up with some blankets, okay? And you might not need the second blanket. Some of you will find you want the blanket with your block. But if you can tolerate turning your block lower, some of you will be able to tolerate no block at all. so that you wiggle back and you keep the shoulder blades at the corner. Then you have the preparation for your shoulder stand in a supported position. This pose is called Setu Bandha Sarvangasana, and it brings us closer to shoulder stand. We're going to start here, and then we're going to add stretching the body out. And then we're going to end with a twist. And as you straighten your legs, you're welcome to try one at a time. Notice if you can tolerate both legs straight, and notice if you can make your feet wider, that this is a more pronounced back bend, if you will. So you're readying the body to welcome extension in a supported way. If you find that it's too much, bend one knee or go back to both knees bent. And if you feel that your upper rib cage has had enough, then I want you to slide up your mat so that you can place your shoulders on the floor. So that's how we're going to get out of it, but just use that as you need. And just breathe. When you're ready for change, let's head in that direction. Let's plant the feet and wiggle back so your shoulders make it to the floor. Move the block from underneath your head. Keep sliding until the bolster is left only underneath your pelvis. We're going to use that as an in-between place. So this is also a pose called Setu Bandha. Sometimes we have the block underneath our hips instead. And it translates into this bridge kind of position. Rock the legs side to side. Let your feet come on either side of your bolster so they hug it. You don't get to go very far. You have a little bit of engagement through the legs that is protective. Now, lift your pelvis, stay nice and high, bring the arms to pressing down, keep the neck elongating. This is an active bridge pose. We will do better in our resting positions when we have a chance to engage, to cinch up some muscles so when they let go, they'll really let go. Okay? Body works that way. Slide the bolster out from underneath you completely. Plant your feet on top on that edge right close to you. Okay, everybody okay? My feet are elevated, they're on this bolster. My head, my shoulders, my entire upper body is on the floor, and I want you to place the right ankle at the left knee. Let the arms rest beside you. 3 repetitions to lift and lower. We're charging the glutes. Come down slowly. I'm trying to fill this time with your entire body supported so that the release from the last back bend gets to stay as part of what's energetically going on in the body. The release of the tension gets to continue. Take the time and switch. Should feel really good now to rest against the floor. The foot is flexed. Here comes 3 repetitions. This reminds us of how we started in pigeon. If you will now complete those 3, roll to one side, and we'll make the next adjustment. We'll come into our twist. So now our bolster is set up for us to go the other way. And I want to come and twist. What we've learned in using a bolster for this twist that I think is everyone's favorite or among the favorites is that we could stand to be a little higher. So some folks know very easily to put a block, a low block, underneath the far end of the bolster. To scoot right up into it, I want my hip to be touching right up to it. You can stack the legs, you can open them up like we had, make it comfortable for you. Some of you will find that instead of your blanket, you don't need the blanket this way. You really need your blanket to begin to support the neck through to the shoulder. Please make that right for yourself. I'll come around, make sure everyone's okay, because you are learning what is the right setup for you in this pose. You can fold your blanket deeper. Your hands are one on either side. We're turning strongly, lengthening the front spine, coming down to settle in and rest the arms. And just breathe. Slide your hands underneath you, press up. Begin to walk around. So if your legs are to the left, walk around to your right. Reach the arm across, tug at the bolster, help yourself into this more upright twist. Notice the lift of the belly, the anchoring of the legs, the front spine lengthening, and then let's do all of that on the other side. What that means is you'll simply swivel around. You'll swivel around and you'll arrive with the hip right up against your setup. One hand on either side needs you to turn strongly, to lengthen, as if someone is drawing you forward. Come on down and check out this side. Make any adjustments. Think about what is supporting you. One side of your back will need this higher, one side is going to need it lower. And just know that you don't really need a block underneath the far end if you're inclined to come lower, a bolster and a blanket. So do what you need. When you are ready, slide your hands underneath you, press up. And as you do, continue walking around. Let's begin to wake up the body by just walking around. My legs are to the right, I'm walking to the left. You can catch hold, your setup, tug, lengthen, open. Breathe. As you return, come and sit. Your props are right with you. Give yourself a little bit of height. Sit with ease. Bring your hands to your heart. Acknowledge your practice, the energy around you, between us, and for us. Mother Teresa was known to say, "You are here to love." But that is your essence. You are love. And that you can never tell people enough that you love them. I love you all. Namaste.